It's late at night. You're right at the cusp of falling asleep, and then suddenly, bang, you hear a shotgun, or a cannon, or a door slam, or loud footsteps. Something loud that wakes you up, that jolts you, that stops you from falling asleep. The wife or husband is still sound asleep. The dog's asleep. There was nothing that they heard. So what is it? You didn't have a stroke. You don't have a brain tumor. It's called exploding head syndrome, and your head just exploded, kind of. Exploding head syndrome is one of the weirdest things that your brain does. And today we're going to talk all about it. So if you've experienced a loud sound before you were about to fall asleep, this episode is for you. I'm Travis, and I like to dive into all the things that sound made up, but are actually real, just like exploding head syndrome. That term is in medical textbooks. And we're going to talk about what exploding head syndrome is, what's happening in your brain when it happens, why scientists think it happens, and who it's most likely to happen to. Oh, and at the end, I have a trivia question about everything we cover today. Stick around because it's a good one, or at least I think so. Okay, first, so what is exploding head syndrome, or EHS? Doctors classify it as a parasomnia, which is weird things that happen right before you fall asleep or when you're sleeping that it's technically not a dream. Things like sleepwalking, sleep terrors, sleep paralysis, things like that. Those are parasomnias. And exploding head syndrome, that loud crash bang that you hear, is categorized with those. The official medical definition is the sudden perception of a loud noise. An explosion, a gunshot, a crash, a bang, someone talking, a door slamming, something like that. It happens right before you're falling asleep or right as you wake up. And notice what is not in the definition: pain. You don't feel any physical pain. You might feel like a buzz or a jolt, but there's no pain involved in this. The explosion or the noise isn't hurting you, but it's just very loud and terrifying and completely not there. It's there, but only in your head. Typically only lasts for less than a second. In that 1 second, it feels like everything just went nuts. Some people also report seeing like a flash of light, like a camera going off in their head. And you wake up and you look around and everything's fine. And everything is fine. The first recorded case was in 1876 by an American neuroscientist named Silas Ware Mitchell. He documented 2 patients that were experiencing what he called sensory shocks. I don't know, sensory shocks sounds a little less dramatic than exploding head syndrome, I guess. It didn't get officially recognized as a sleep disorder until 2005. So for 130 years, people that have had this happen to them were just alone with it. And this may be happening to you right now, and you just haven't told anyone. For instance, I know someone who I was just randomly talking to this about, and he said, that happens to me. And it really took me back. I was like, wow, what are the chances? Well, the chances are pretty good because it happens to about 1 in 6 people. So there's a very good chance that you have had something like this, or someone you know has had something like this happen to them. And just know that it's not a tumor or, an aneurysm or a stroke. It's something that has happened. It just doesn't get talked about a lot. That's why we're doing it here. So who does this happen to? Scientists have found out that up to 16% of college students get exploding head syndrome. They hear this sudden loud noise that's not really there. I mean, 16%, that's if there's 6 people in a room, 1 of them has probably had it happen to them. Still, nobody talks about it. And think about it. If you were to tell somebody, hey, last night when I was falling asleep, I heard a gunshot and I looked up and there was nothing. It was just in my head. The response you're probably not going to get is, oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. The response you're probably going to get is, what? Maybe you should get checked out. And you probably shouldn't, because it is relatively normal. It's just not normal to talk about it. So start asking people, hey, have you ever had this? Or, send them this video. because it happens to a ton of people. And I think it's very, very I'm just kind of amazed at how many people it happens to and how nobody says anything about it. I mean, if it hasn't, it's never happened to me. But if it did, you would better believe that I would be telling everybody because I don't know. That's just the type of person I am. And there's also a connection with sleep paralysis. And I know you've talked to somebody that says that they've had that, where they were they couldn't move and they were sitting and there was this entity that was looking at them or sitting on their chest or something like that. They couldn't move, they couldn't do anything. All they could do was sit there and be afraid. I know you've heard that. And it's in the same category as EHS, exploding head syndrome. It's right in line with it. It happens right at the cusp of awake and sleep. So what's actually happening in the brain? Well, the interesting thing is nobody knows. And here's the thing, the science behind EHS is new. They're just starting to study this. Like I said, they've known about it for a long time, but not enough people talk about it. And that's where YouTube comes in. That's why this is such a great platform. You can come here and talk about just whatever, just weird stuff. Like I'm very interested in just weird things that happen and weird things your brain does. Exploding head syndrome falls right in line. Perfect. So one of the theories is you have a glitch in your brainstem. Nothing damaging. It's just that there's a small anomaly that fires and causes your auditory neurons to activate. When your brain is powering down, it's not like flipping a light switch. It's like shutting a system down and then another system down and then another system down. And then you slowly drift off to sleep. And then all of a sudden you are sleeping. But it happens in stages. They think that in one of those stages, there is a misfire and it sends a signal that says, bang. And your auditory cortex is listening for anything that is kind of crazy, even in your sleep. Your fight or flight system, say. And your auditory cortex is listening because evolutionarily, you needed to hear a lion roar if you were sleeping. So some researchers think that serotonin is involved. Some patients were given serotonin medications, and after that, their EHS had subdued. It calmed down. That's the thing that kind of points in the direction that maybe EHS is related to serotonin, but there's no definitive scientific proof of that yet. Theory number 3, calcium channels. There was a patient with EHS and he was given nifedipine. That is a calcium blocker. And after that, his EHS completely went away. Apparently, in the world of calcium blockers and calcium channels and doctors that research that type of stuff, that's a pretty big deal because they said if calcium channels are involved in EHS, then that opens up a whole nother set of questions. So I don't know what those questions are, but I'll find out. Theory number 4, aberrant attentional processing. And this one is the most technical, so stay with me. Researchers studying EHS patients hooked them up to an EEG, a device that measures brainwaves, and they found something unexpected. During the moments leading up to an EHS episode, patients showed a distinctive brainwave pattern that normal sleepers don't have. It's called an alpha coactivation pattern. Basically, 2 kinds of waves that don't usually appear together in the same places in the brain. They don't usually show up or firing at the same time. The source traced back to structures deep in the brain, including something called the thalamic pulvinar and the posterior cingulate cortex. What does this mean in plain English? It means that the brain's attention system might not be fully letting go when it's supposed to. Part of your brain is still alert, still listening. At the exact moment, another part is trying to fall asleep, and that creates an error. And that error comes through as a loud auditory bang or door knock or whatever it is that you hear. So what could trigger this? What makes it happen some nights and other nights? Some people could have it once or twice a year, never have it again. So what causes it? Well, sleep deprivation. Irregular sleep patterns is one of the biggest culprits. And there's also stress. Are you under a lot of stress? Now, unfortunately, if you hear a loud bang before you go to sleep and you don't get a good night's sleep, well, that could cause stress. It's like kind of like a feedback loop. So, sleep deprivation, irregular sleep patterns, and the use of stimulants like caffeine or energy drinks, it doesn't let you fall asleep in the correct order. It all kind of keeps you awake. And here, if you've stuck around this far, is the craziest thing about the whole video. The thing that helps stop this, it's amazingly enough just being told what it is because nobody knows. Nobody talks about this. And people hear it in their head and they think, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Start talking about it. Leave a comment. Tell me, has it happened to you? Because there's lots of people that this is happening to. And the number one way to alleviate the stress from it, at least, is to know that it's a thing. So just talking about it, that's going to help it. And, get on a regular sleep schedule. Maybe avoid monsters after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, or any type of caffeine. Caffeine takes a while to get out of your system. And speaking of caffeine, this is exactly what happens. You have these receptors in your body, and you build up this thing that's called a sleep chemical, sleep pressure. It's called adenosine. And the more adenosine you build up, the more tired you get. And caffeine fills in the same receptors as the adenosine. And the adenosine still builds up, but all the receptors are full of caffeine. That caffeine dissipates, and then all that adenosine floods in and fills up your receptors, and you crash. When you fall asleep too fast, you get things like hypnic jerk, sleep paralysis, exploding head syndrome. So, if you lay off the caffeine after a certain amount of time, you may do better at getting to sleep at night. You may not have night terrors or exploding head syndrome. And like I said, one of the biggest things is to know that everybody, this happens to a lot of people, and you're not crazy, and it's not a brain tumor, and it's kind of normal. So if you know anybody that this has happened to, please send them this video, get it out there, because it's happened to more people than you think. And we're going to close it out there. And we're just going to say, thanks for sticking around. If you have, I'm kind of a new channel and I want to talk about things like this and interact. So like and subscribe and all that. Okay, so here's the trivia question. In 1876, exploding head syndrome was first introduced into medical literature by Silas Ware Mitchell. Although he did not call it exploding head syndrome, he called it something else. What did he call it?